Right now, everybody, dollars and cents. And with a big election, I think you've heard about this coming November. Which party do you trust more to put America back to work? And next.
I don't like it when you put words in my mouth like that.
SmackDown, Linda McMahon trying to make the jump from wrestling to politics. But first, she's going to have to make it out of the ring. We're going to sit down with a man that she's going to have to beat first, one Chris Shays. And later,
I'm a great mother. I'm a wonderful mother.
With an interesting shade of skin. Is this abuse after the mother of this permatan mom confessed that she went tanning with mommy, arrested on child endangerment charges? While this may be a bizarre case here, more and more we're seeing about incidents where the question comes up if the child ought to be taken away. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us this Thursday evening, May 3rd. Now, we've got a packed hour for you this evening. We're going to cover everything from Bush tax cuts to a contentious Senate race to even that mom. We're going to begin, though, first with the big themes of this campaign season and then focus on the Grand All Party and how it defines itself when it comes to this day and age in this crucial election year. And also, can it attract constituencies that traditionally have voted Democrat? Join us to talk about that, talk about politics and so much more. Former representative and current Republican candidate for U.S. Senate from the state of Connecticut, Chris Shays, a good friend of his, no explaining taste. Former Representative Rob Simmons, also from Connecticut. We kid because we care. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, and Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. Let's begin, guys, with dollars and cents here and the bread and butter issues when it comes to this campaign, jobs, and the economy, and where a fundamental bright line, it seems, between the two parties exists. Now, there's no area where those two parties differ more, it seems, than on the economy and when it comes to tax policy. And with elections looming, three huge debates are going to get a lot of attention, trust me, between now and then. And also, I believe will go a long way to help determining which party and which candidate not just sits in the Oval Office, but controls Washington. Now, whether it comes to extending Bush tax cuts or to raise rates on the top end or raise them on everyone. And how about the debt limit? Should we raise the nation's credit card limit again or risk a default on our obligations? Sound familiar? And with so many people out of work, should we again extend unemployment benefits, or is it time to cut off people who have been jobless the longest? All right, let's start, guys, here with issue one, and when it comes to the economy and specifically, you're looking to go back to Washington. We question your sanity for that, but we'll trust there's good reasons. If you were there, I'm going to put you in the august body of the U.S. Senate, and they say, okay, what do we do about the Bush tax cuts? Do we extend them once again? And again, there's different options here, but how do you feel, again, with the debt where it is right now and also the questions of equity when it comes to the tax code?
That's not the first question. The first question is, how do we grow the economy?
See how good he is right now? He takes the first question after the windup and he goes with his own. Go ahead.
Because, you know, then we're having a silly discussion. The American dream is about growth, growing the economy, the next generation better. The next generation isn't better when the economy grows at 1.6%. For almost 200 years, the economy grew for about 3.9%, and you had the American dream. And now what you got is you've got a president and Congress deciding how to divide a pie that's not getting any bigger. So to me, what you got to do is you got to have a change in all tax policy, simplify the tax code. You got to look at regulations. You got to get our financial house in order, and you're going to have to stop the outrageous spending that we've got in government. You got to do all of those things, and the Bush tax cut is just a little teeny part of it.
Well, let's deal with that little teeny part. I'll try it one more time, which is, you're right. More people got to be at work here. The economy's got to grow larger. But also, there's a constant refrain from both sides of the aisle, but especially from the right, to say, wait a minute here. This debt is irresponsible. These national deficits we're rolling up every year is as well. Two ways to address that. You obviously bring more revenue in, and also you cut your spending.
But how you bring in revenue is the key.
Okay, but do you raise the top end back to where it was when the economy was doing gangbusters under Clinton and have the top end pay 39% because it didn't make a material difference here, at least bringing down our annual deficits?
No, because then what you're going to do is you're going to slow the growth of the economy.
You guys are quiet for the first time here. Anybody want to chime in here, or is it just me?
I think we've been there before. We were there in the Carter administration when Ronald Reagan came in. He lowered the rates but got rid of the loopholes, and as a consequence, more people who should be paying taxes were paying taxes, but at the same time it stimulated the economy, stimulated growth, and as Chris has pointed out, it began to grow the pie. And as you grow the pie
but you and
create
I both
jobs.
know, and Andrew, we'll talk this chart here that you put together, right? You and I both know, Congressman, that forget the 99 of the Occupy and everything. There is an undercurrent right now where people feel it's not a fair game. If we could bring up the graphic that shows, and there's a lot of numbers in between this, but suffice to say, you got to go back to right before the Great Depression to show about the concentration of wealth right now. And people feel that if you're in the bottom 99, you don't got a fair shot at this right now. And moreover, that the top end with 15% tax rates for Mitt Romney, et cetera, just ain't right with the amount of deductions, write-downs, et cetera, that these guys get.
Deductions.
Okay.
Bring the rates down to
Exactly.
25, 15, and 10. The only reason why, with all due respect, my opinion is, the only reason why we're seeing the rich and some very poor folks is the economy's only growing at 1.2 to 1.4%, has been only growing that way over the last 12 years.
But Congressman,
Right.
Congressman Simmons was talking about the Reagan tax cuts, but Reagan cut taxes to a level that's higher than the top end tax rate is right now. Right. So even though Reagan cut taxes, the tax rate was still higher than it is right now. And the question is, why don't we revert back to that? And you're also talking about the growth of the economy. The rest of the world's economy is actually contracting. We're actually showing growth. Right. I mean, is that necessarily U.S. policy, or is that world recession that is slowing down the growth here?
Well, until Nixon's time, we saw the economy grow at about 3.9%. Then he decoupled gold. We started to see the Fed fool around with the dollar. Sometimes it was worth more, sometimes worth less. A dollar is simply a measurement, no different than a foot. A foot can't be this length, then this length, then this length. One of the things we've got to do is stabilize the dollar. I mean, people are obviously having a hard time affording gasoline. Why is gasoline so expensive? Because the dollar's worth so much less, and you have a world price for oil. Oil is based on a world price. It's just too expensive because the dollar is too cheap.
All right, let me get to the next one, healthcare reform. What do you want to see the Supreme Court do? You want to see them repeal it?
I want them to follow the Constitution. I don't think you can mandate, using the Commerce Clause, healthcare. I think it should be dealt on the state level. We have in Connecticut, 91% of our people have health care. They have the Husky plan. They have a plan that the state devised. If people couldn't buy health care, they could buy it through the state. I think it should be done state by state, and I think the states that are doing it well, others will copy them.
I could agree with Chris, and also in Connecticut we have community health clinics where you can just walk in. And what you do, if you have no coverage, you walk in, you get treated dental and primary care, but when you walk out, they sign you up for one of the plans.
Why is healthcare a state issue? Why isn't it a federal
Always
issue?
has been.
Why should it be different in Connecticut than it is, let's say, in Georgia?
It's not.
And people who can't get healthcare in Georgia because of state policies there probably can't afford to move to Connecticut where they could get healthcare.
Well, some do, but the point is states register and license doctors and nurses and hospitals and outpatient clinics, and this has gone on for a long, long time. Different states provide different levels and quality of health care. Different states have insurance policies with different mandated coverages. So you go to Tennessee where you have 10 or 12 mandated coverages, then you move to Connecticut, we have 54. So it's more expensive in Connecticut, but states have done this throughout our history.
You know, Richard, for 1 second, I'd like to go back and encompass, if you will, your first question, as well as healthcare, because I'm listening to my friends on the Republican side talk about growing the economy, and that's a great thing. But what's going on in my mind is, how can the economy possibly grow when Republicans in Washington are as partisan as ever? Anything that Obama puts forth, they say no automatically. And how can we possibly grow the economy when we don't even want to extend unemployment? And we're really having a discussion, if people don't have unemployment when they're already in trouble, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? We're just going to drop them?
So let's look at the partisans. It's been 1,005 days, excuse me, it's been 3 years and 5 days since the United States Senate has passed a budget. Over 3 years. Now, you can't filibuster a budget. It's only the responsibility of the majority. I mean, they can get it done, just like the Republicans did. in the House. So the Republicans passed their budget, the Senate didn't pass theirs. They can't blame it on Republicans. How do you negotiate when one side hasn't done a basic responsibility that's provided in the Constitution?
You're saying that Republicans in both the House and the Senate have made a good faith effort towards reaching a compromise with the White House, towards meeting them halfway?
On any issue. Not just the budget.
No,
on any initiative.
Let's take one issue to start.
Okay.
The basic issue, a budget. The budget, every year, the House has passed. A budget tells you how much you can spend, how much you can tax, how much you can entitle. The Senate hasn't passed a budget in over 1,098 days. They haven't passed a budget. And yet, then at the end of the year, they say, well, we got to negotiate with the House. The House has their budget. What do they negotiate with? The Senate doesn't have a budget. The Senate budget can't be filibustered. It doesn't take 60 votes. It just takes 50 votes. That's a base. So I'm thinking, how can you blame Republicans for the fact the Senate hasn't passed the budget?
Well, but we still have a functioning government. We still have piecemeal appropriations that have been passed, so the government still functions. It's a little bit of a straw to argument because
on unemployment, the only thing I hear are Republicans trying to block extending unemployment. I mean, can you deny that?
Others will argue the same.
Cut from Republicans.
You know, if in fact you're going to extend unemployment compensation indefinitely, why look for a job?
We agree on that.
Why look for a job?
You really think people are just sitting there soaking up the unemployment benefits? I don't need to work. I'm getting $300
The Labor Department
a month.
has listed millions of jobs online. But if you're getting a nice check and able to sit at home and mow the lawn and feed the dog and watch TV, why go out and hustle for a job?
Because unemployment barely scratches the surface for most people's basic needs.
What have Americans done throughout 200 years of our history?
I have a feeling we're not going
to
agree on this one. Let me get the last one, which is
throughout 200 years of their history. Have they been on the dole?
We have seen.
No.
You notice, by the way, Congressman doesn't listen to me. So, Afghanistan. Obviously, we've seen what's played out in the last 96 hours or so. Do you support the plan? Granted, it's a little open-ended as to what our policy is going to be going forward.
At the latest, we should be out by 2014. We should try to get out sooner. How quickly can you bring not just your men and it's your equipment, how you debase, but I've been to theaters combined 24 times. When you talk to the generals, they'll give you the party line. When you talk to the colonels, they'll tell you, Afghanistan ain't going to change. They're 20% literate at 5% education. Half their communities don't have roads. Half their communities plus don't have electricity. You're not going to nation build in Afghanistan. It is the playground for Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iran. Excuse me, Pakistan, India, and Iran. That's its playground. They're all trying to mess it up. It's the most corrupt government in the world. Get out.
So what do you say to, if you're in the Senate, John McCain, who says, well, you know, if it's unstable there, we can't go. We have to stay until we have a functioning government.
I disagree with John McCain more than once. I felt we should have set a timeline in Iraq, and we did.
It took us 13 minutes and 30 seconds, but we have found consensus.